For another thing that I think we all care about quite a bit, tier sets and Legos. Right, there's a new legendary rank coming, but don't worry, because, you know, you would have heard that in the past and been like, well, yeah, obviously that's going to happen, but it's just going to mean even more Torghast. Well, no. There's a new currency called Cosmic Flux that is inspired by the Echoes of Ny'alotha, and it can be obtained from nearly every endgame activity like Raid, Mythic Plus, World Quests, and even Torghast. So basically, if you are a raider, you will be able to upgrade your legendaries by raiding. Should have been like that earlier, but I'm glad they've listened. Excellent.
Absolutely.
Yeah, kind of crazy.
Absolutely.
Now, the lower legendary ranks will still require old materials, but these are going to be made easier to farm in 9.2. Just need to see what that actually looks like. Cosmic Flux also can be used to create tier set pieces when combined with creation catalyst items, which are obtained from like M+ PvP rating as well, I think. I'm not sure on that one. Anyway, basically it's just a backup system, right? Where if you haven't been getting your teardrops, you can just go forge a bit of tier gear.
Yeah.
Again, that's good. There's a theme here. Like, the principles here are all good. We need to wait and see if the actual game bit is good, but at least the principles are they really are improving, which is exactly what we want. Now, items upgraded to tier set pieces will have static stats, meaning you don't need to grind for perfect secondary stats on the items that you transform. Good.
Yep, perfect.
And they don't want to repeat benthic gear, so tertiary stats are not going to be on tier sets. Again, great. The set bonuses will work in all zones, so there's no unintuitive domination shard-like things. They say the goal of domination shards was to give raid exclusive bonuses, but they recognize they failed. Yes, they did. They still do want to give raiders some form of early advantage, which is why tier set pieces will initially only be obtainable by raid, but the creation catalyst items will come later. Again, the big question there is when. I think it would be okay if you could obtain them from raid. But then I guess it's just the whole thing about, you know, grinding them out. Someone said I like benthic gear. No, Jonathan, like benthic gear, thumbs up. It was just that's Morgan specifically talking about the benthic lottery, which was where very high-end players would be targeting the specific bits of benthic gear that they want, and they would just purchase them again and again and again and again to try to roll the perfect stats on the item before they upgrade it. And doing so was, for many of the very high-end people, quite important.
Yeah, and very specifically, it was a socket. Because they could get sockets, or, you know, nothing, or speed or something, and sockets at that point in time were huge in terms of value. They were, what was it? I think, if I remember correctly, sockets were around 15 item levels in value, because it was just so much, because it was so much extra secondary stat, but also it was so much specific secondary stat that you want at the time the game was designed that way. That it was actually just huge.
RCI said more time gating. Here's the thing, right? If you don't time gate that, then the raiders are going to be grinding every form of everything in the game, totally no-lifing it on week 1.
Yeah.
And then you have the opposite problem. So it's that sort of thing where, like, I don't think it really fits into a binary that well. Tricky. I think it's just that thing, you know, WoW is played to such a competitive degree that it's playing with fire. All of these systems, which must be hard for them to work out. Then they said that they want set bonuses to act like a path to catch up for other players, and that for unique loot, like the KT two-handed sword or the Sylvanas dagger, there will be a thing in the Sepulchre of the first ones, but it won't be a big part of player power. Just a fun side bonus. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading this earlier, and I was trying to think of what it could be, and I imagine it's just something really cool and cosmetic. Which, you know, it would need to be very cool, because at this point of the game, there's so much cool stuff that people have, like, they have the transmugs they want, or they just go, oh, well, I like this sword because it goes with the set I bought on the store, which is the best in the game. But you know what I mean? There's like, it would have to be really interesting, and I hope they can nail that, because I do think that the alignment of what the development and art team think is the top end of cool. I don't know if that massively aligns with players a lot of the time, but as we saw from some of the Covenant cosmetics, especially like the Maldraxian stuff, they can get it when they want to. They just need to absolutely nail it. Yeah, and it'll be I don't know, maybe we'll talk about tier a little bit later, like from a visual perspective. It's that weird thing where the mythics actually look pretty damn good, but what was in the patch trailer looks really rough, so it's hard to know until we sort of see them all. Yep. But on the topic of the Great Vault and personal loot then, alright, so Morgan actually acknowledged the issues with personal loot for both guilds and casual pugs. What? That is yeah, okay, cool.
He said it would be something addressed between expansions and not patches. Obviously, we want it now. That aside, and sorry for peeking the microphone and all of your ears, does this mean that there could be an optional master loot? Like, look, I'm very happy that if it's above 70% of the group are in the same guild, that's the only way you can activate master loot. I would be perfectly happy for that. So the default mode of play still is personal loot. I'm totally fine with that. I think a lot of us who play in a sort of static, to borrow an FF term, we would want master loot because we want control over our loot.
Yeah.
So I think that's great. And as long as that's advertised from the outset, advertised from the outset on like a group listing or something, then, thumbs up, right? So, man, could master loot return? It would certainly be funny considering how, at least I think in some of the Ian interviews, it was always presented as this is the stance we have taken.
Yeah.
And this is softer.
Yeah, well, I think that's the important part. Obviously, they could be sort of softening it down, but I think if they can get someone from the team to come out and say, okay, with the changes we've made to Group Finder that now allow you to specify what kind of group you're going for, you're now allowed to sign up for a master loot thing, and that way you can sign up for it, and that's it. That's the only way you could do it, but it can be done. I think that more than almost any change they could possibly make to the game, that would restore faith in the team's outlook to me, because I can see a lot of their philosophy changing as they're going through these changes, and I think that if they had the humility to say, you know what, master loot has its purpose, has its uses in niche cases for groups who play together, you can have it back. They don't even have to apologize. Literally, the weight of them actually admitting that we were right, we as a collective, as a community, were right. That would do so much for me, like having respect for them. More so if they actually talked about it in detail. But even if they just admitted that, I'd be like, okay, you show enough humility and enough reason to learn that I actually fully believe you now on listening.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now in the Great Vault, we of course have issues. I think me and you have pretty deep issues with the Great Vault, what it means for the game, and we think that very different alternatives to the Great Vault would be a lot more healthy for players.
Yep.
But they liked how the Great Vault expanded from BFA system. Adding to it should feel like Christmas every reset. As you say, bing, bing, wahoo.
I don't want Christmas every reset. I want to play the game more every reset.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'd say. I don't want stacking up how much random shit I could get. I want to work towards a thing that I want in an MMO. That's basically how it is. I think for so many people, the Great Vault, it's turned into a your disappointment. It's like you're just kind of like nagged every week.
Yep.
Yeah, well, fuck you. You should have grinded more Mythic Plus. Maybe that one would have been good. Yeah. And then, of course, you do all of that. You have loads of slots open and you don't get what you want. Then you just feel fucked over.
Yeah, so this actually a fun thing about the analogy he used. It should feel like Christmas every reset. Well, I don't know how Christmas goes down in the Day household. But for a lot of people, obviously Christmas, you get gifts from other people that you don't know what's in them. But as far as Santa Claus, who's very much real for any children watching, also children, please don't watch. But the point is, you send Santa a letter with what you want on it.
Yeah.
And if you have been good enough, you get it. That's not how the fucking Great Vault works.
No.
Santa just fires you random shit if you've been good. And if you've been naughty, which in this case is not spent hours and hours a week playing, then you get a big lump of coal.
Yeah, I really hope in the Day household, it's not a case where Christmas just 1 year is a total wash.
Here's a bag of coal.
No, and the response is, I'm sorry that all of our present selections that we did randomly were really not what you wanted, but next Christmas we're introducing the option to re-roll your presents, right? Yeah. So I sometimes it's fun to use an analogy against the point it's trying to make. I think it's really quite hilarious how easy it is to do with this. Yep. But yeah, so whatever. Vault is what it is. Tier sets, tier gear can drop from the Great Vault, so that will giga, triple, double plus make the Vault a potential for a humongo bing bing wahoo or a big sat. And there are no plan changes for the Great Vault, like thresholds or anything. All right, Conduits, the most yummy system in Shadowlands that we all loved. They've heard a lot of community feedback regarding Conduit acquisition, effort to upgrade, and how they're non-targetable. Considering that this has been said to them since beta, I would very much hope they have heard the community feedback.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a pity it was not acted on in patch 9.0.5 when it should have been acted on. So they're adding steps to address some of these problems, but they haven't decided how to address others. It's really simple.
Targeted upgrades.
Just targeted upgrades. See that little upgradey item thingy? You click on it, you click on the conduit you want to upgrade, it's done.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. Problem solved. If you want to really incentivize people to get them all, just add an achievement.
Oh, yeah.
Something, I don't know.
Add an achievement and a big mount for it. You just ride a big version of the conduit, almost like the flying disc or like the flying carpet. It's just the conduit UI. You're flying around on it. I don't know.
Yeah. So whatever conduits.
Yeah.
There's going to be higher conduit levels, but they're not exactly sure if an upgrade item like in Korthia will be added or not. So we'll just wait and see what's on PTR. Torghast then. They're adding more floors and creature types. There's a new wing called the Jailer's Gauntlet, which is a boss rush.
Sound?
More fun, right? I mean, hey, just go into a boss rush with the boys. Sounds fun, doesn't it?
Yep.
Fighting bosses in WoW. It's what we do. A boss rush could be a fun way to do Torghast. And if you're telling me that I can upgrade a bunch of old Legos, get some new rewards, whatever the hell it is, by doing a boss rush in a group setting, then that could be really fun. Less traditional open floors where so they are less traditional open floors where you encounter bosses back to back with cosmetic rewards only. Cool.
Yep.
That is, I'm not going to say it's a mage tower or anything. Definitely not. But it's that sort of thing where hopefully it's nice and hard. Get some cool prestige cosmetic rewards. Go in there, do a hard challenge with your friends.
Yeah.
It's that weird thing where, because I saw somebody say, Torghast yikes, never again. I totally get the feeling. I definitely do get the feeling. But imagine if it was a boss rush that gave you only cosmetic rewards that operated the exact same as this one will, but it just has a different theme and isn't in Torghast. How would you think about it then? I think a lot of people think a lot more positively about it. So it's going to inherit some, bad memories from Torghast, but I think it's cool that they're doing that.
Yeah, it's frustrating because Torghast, in terms of gameplay design, had a lot of really neat ideas overall, but it's just dead to people. A boss rush is interesting because I think a lot of the bosses generally have balance issues, but a lot of that is down to the anima power side of it. It might take work to get them balanced enough to work without anima powers or with limited anima powers because, I mean, you know yourself, sometimes you just get a bad build and you're screwed. With the more powers you pick up, the less likely you have of not having good ones. But the bosses are they're maybe a little bit too simple, but they are literally especially if you don't one-shot them, they actually can be quite fun to fight. That does come with a caveat of you requiring interrupts, stuns, stuff like that for a couple of them, but for most classes, that should be fine.
If it's the sort of thing where, look, if there was a boss rush mode in FF14 that was synced, where a group of you and 3 other people could go and do the little boss rush maybe, or get some currency, earn some cosmetics, that would be hailed as a great thing.
Absolutely.
So if it's, something like that's going to be here in World of Warcraft, hopefully they get it right. But I think cool in principle. It's another little form of gameplay. So thumbs up, and also new upgrades for the box of many things. So look, I think it's good that they're just on Torghast. They're not really bothering to do much of the existing Torghast experience. I think they know there that the diminishing returns would be quite massive. But what they are doing is they're targeting where they can get a cool new bit of gameplay within that format in a way that hopefully will feel different to players, and I think that's wise. On Tazavesh then, they said it'll be split in 2 for the Mythic Plus pool. The hard mode won't be in the Mythic Plus pool, and it should be testable very early in PTR, which is exactly what we expected. So that's an interview with Morgan. I think he did a good job. I think it definitely helped that he had sort of things to say that the community basically likes.
Yeah, I guess obviously this stuff wasn't going to be in the video where they're like, here's everything, here's what we think the average World of Warcraft player wants to see about this stuff, which, maybe they're all off the mark, maybe they're wrong, maybe they're just being conservative, but the fact that they haven't highlighted this stuff for people shows that, I don't know, I guess they might need to, I guess this is the kind of thing I think about them opening communications a bit more, where this stuff is obviously there, it's an interview on a podcast. Obviously, they should be drawing attention to it, I think, in a more public way.
Yeah, that's definitely funny. Oasis saying you literally described Ultimates.
Yeah, thanks. Well, Ultimates are definitely harder, but
definitely harder and different. But maybe there's something to be said for that. I mean, could you say, this is not a serious point, the Time Walking Ultimate
Yeah, please.
Because I mean, remember the Time Walking Ultimate that they did for the anniversary, where you get to file killed.
What? You know what? You're right. That actually kind of was
a little strange
bit,
ultimate. It wasn't hard.
That was a really shitty implementation of an ultimate.
Yeah.
The idea was there. The idea was sound, but those old bosses don't have incredible design with modern stuff, and the scaling was way off. But I guess that is what they sort of did.
Could be a cool feature.
Yeah. I mean, also people did also say that maps are a little bit like boss rushes, which is true enough. Where you just kind of go have your little group of lads going about with your maps.
Are maps what you unlock from Soroban?
Soroban?
Because I remember the time when Alphino was really stupid, didn't haggle for the katana, and spent a whole bunch of Tataru's money, and she was pissed off at him. And right at that time, Soroban had a blue quest that appeared. And it was like, well, hey, if you want to earn the money back, come with me. Is that treasure maps? I mean, I have no idea. I need to do these treasure maps, though, because they all sound quite fun.
No, if I'm right, I believe that was the lead into the Four Lords trial series.
Oh.
Yep.
Interesting.